Hello, and welcome to the Radio Roundtable. Today we're going to be talking about some topics related to shortwave and ham radio. Just before we get started too far, I want to let everyone know that this is a recorded show. We're not live right now, but we are going to release this as a premiere, so it may appear as if we're live, but we're not. This is recorded. If this goes well, then next time we're going to release this as a live show. Let us know down in the comments or in the chat what you think. So joining me this morning is Radiowild, Bob, and then we've got Tom from Tom's Radio Room Show, and then we also have Kevin, One Crazy Nordlander. These guys all have great YouTube channels, and there'll be links to their channels down in the description. So go ahead and check those out and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. So today we've got a few different topics planned for everyone. But before we get started, we just want to mention that we're not experts in any of this stuff. We're all radio enthusiasts and have been playing with radios for a long time, but there's things that we may get wrong or that we may miss. So keep that in mind as you watch this video, and feel free to leave us comments on anything that we may have gotten wrong or needs clarification. So our first topic that we wanted to talk about was some new shortwave and general coverage radios from Tecsun and Sangean. Tom's been doing some research on these recently and has done a few shows on his channel. So if you want to see more about these after you're done watching us talk about them here, check out Tom's channel and you'll be able to see some more about that. But what I'm going to do now is turn it over to Tom and let him introduce that topic. And then we have a few links that we'll share that you guys can look at while we're going through. So go ahead, Tom. Why don't you start us off on that?
Okay, well, the thing is, it's been kind of sparse as far as new radios, with the exception of Tecsun has had several new radios. About a year and a half ago, they came out with the PL880 all-band radio, portable radio, and I got one of the initial ones, and it had several problems, and they had a lot of features that weren't mentioned in the documentation. And that's because they didn't really finish the design up. And I finally got that one replaced with a second one. It was a little better. If you didn't use like single sideband and synchronous detection, it was a great radio. But if you wanted to use those options, they didn't work too good. Now they've come out with three new radios, the PL330, which is the very small portable radio, the PL990, which is about the size of the Tecsun 660, and then now it's just coming out, the H-501, which has dual speakers. It looks kind of like the 990, but it's wider to accommodate the dual speakers. And I've been interested in those two radios, but I've been cautious because I got burnt on the 880. So I've been watching other people's reviews of those radios, and they haven't been good. They seem like they have the same problems as the 880. The synchronous detection still is not perfect. It works, but not very well. It's not really what I'd call usable. The single sideband function is better, but if you have, for instance, a 660 or a 680, I don't see the need to upgrade to a 990. Now, the other one that's just now hit the market is the H-501. If Rob, if you could do a screen share on those radios,
Sure.
kind of show them what it looks like. The 501 does look promising. I have only seen a couple of videos on the 501, and they still seem to have the synchronous detection problem.
There's the 501 here.
Yeah, there's the 501.
Okay.
It looks beautiful. And the videos I've seen the radio really looks nice. The tuning knobs and everything move very smooth. But, you know, you're paying, see, does that have a price on it, on that web page? There we go. There we go.
423 AliExpress.
423. Yeah.
Okay.
that's a lot of money for a radio, a portable radio.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't have a good portable radio like the 660 or the 680, you might want to invest in this one. There are a few videos now just coming out on this radio, and they do mention that it still has a problem with the AM sync detect circuitry. Still doesn't work good, I'll say. It works fair. So I'm about done there, and I will let the other three gentlemen give their inputs on what they've seen, heard, or discovered.
I guess my question on it would be for the AM synchronous detection. And I know the 660 has that and it works okay, but how much is that really actually used? I mean, do you play with it that much, Tom, or is that just one of those things that's nice to have, or is it only really applicable in like certain situations?
Well, it first came out, I believe, again, no expert, on the Sony 2010, I believe.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it worked perfect. And so I used it a lot. And the only recent radios that it works pretty good on is the Tecsun PL660. And I used it on that, or I still use it on that. My PL880, it doesn't work hardly at all, and I never use it. But I do when I've got a radio, when I'm using a radio that it does work on, which are few and far in between, portable radios, I do use it. Yes, I do use it.
Okay. And
because it does aid when you're getting a weak signal and it's coming and going and slightly shifting frequencies due to the propagation. One that works really helps.
okay. Any thoughts on that, guys?
That's a lot of money for a radio. But,
That's what I was thinking too. I would tend to probably wait a little while to see if the price would drop, but like Tom said, I guess if you don't have one at all,
right.
and you need one, then this may be the one to get. What's the saying? Buy once, cry once.
Right.
Now the 680 and or the 660, they're around $125. Now they don't have the dual speakers. And this also has, believe it or not, it has an MP3 player. Unfortunately, they didn't put in the circuitry to record. Now I've got several cheap radios, like $25 radios, that play and record off of the radio or a built-in microphone. Why they didn't I mean, we're talking $425.
Yeah, right.
Why didn't
the manufacturer just some kind of like a 128 gig flash drive inside that thing so you can store your music? I think that's kind of a fail on their part.
Yeah, maybe the next model.
Because flash drives are cheap now. I remember when they were crazy money. Now you can get them for next to nothing.
Yeah, well, it does have the external port to put in a SD card, but it won't record on it.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. Maybe they forgot.
Still,
Well, that's a good point. They seem to either forget or they do dumb things, like, putting out a radio that has problems with single sideband and synchronous detection. Why would you even put that on the market? Best thing to do is just leave it out.
Yeah, I wonder if when they're developing these things, they have all these plans to put the stuff in, and then it starts taking them too long, and they get pressured just to get it to market.
Yeah,
that's what I wonder.
Have you heard of the? I'm trying to think of the guy up north in Canada.
Jills.
Yep, there you go. I've been watching some of his stuff on the 330. Kind of interested in that radio. Just kind of curious what they're going to be when they're going to be releasing that through, I forget the name of the place that's a good place to buy them. I can't remember what that was, but I know Jill's always comes up with that information. But,
I think it's ANON-CO.
Right. Yep. Anyway, he says right now, I think he bought one, but it was right straight from China, and the instructions came in Chinese and everything like that. And then until they actually release them, they get a lot of the bugs cleaned out of them and stuff. But coming to that, is that any ham radio or something like that as far as the firmware goes in those? You can update them?
You can't, they can.
Okay.
Yeah, like my PL880, they had a firmware update, but I had to exchange the radio.
Oh, wow.
Ah,
Anyway, that was my question about it. I'm kind of interested in getting one, but I don't know if I want to spend $400.
Yeah. I think the 330 is around $70.
Right, that's what I was thinking. But it's really teeny too, isn't it? Pretty small.
Yeah, it is small.
does the 330 do sideband, or is that AM only?
That's sideband.
Oh, wow.
And it's supposed to have the synchronous whatever, I think, built in, but I haven't gotten to his videos yet to find out if he gives them a thumbs up or thumbs down on it. He's pretty honest.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of newer radios passing across my my homestead. I do splurge every once in a while, but to support what Tom is saying, I had spent $400 for a Grundig Satellite 800 a number of years ago. Okay, I don't have the radio anymore. I sold it. I'll explain why. That had synchronous detection on it, and that worked awesome.
Yes, it does.
And
I forgot about that.
one thing that I bought it for was that the New Jersey Antique Radio Club, and they're getting ready to have it now in a few days. It's going to start on the 15th. Once a year, we have and Rob, I explained this to Rob before, but we have what we call a DX contest of the AM broadcast band. So what we do is we try to get, at night, obviously, because band gets long, try to get the most distant stations from our area, log them onto the sheet, and then you take the 10 best or the 10 longest sheets, add all that together for a score. And then there's a number of different categories for different radios. You can have anything from a crystal set up to a Hammerlin SP600 if you wanted to have, it's all kinds of different categories. It's like 7 categories. So I bought this radio just to do that. And I still didn't win, but I had fun doing it. It was a lot of fun. Yes. But the thing that really got under my craw about that radio, and this was a problem with these radios, and that's why I sold it. And the person I sold it to in Kutztown, I told him that, was the stupid rotary encoder for the dial, which slipped. So you're watching the digital display. It worked fine in one direction, and then occasionally it would slip into the other direction. It would make me nuts.
Oh,
so I sold the radio off to a guy for half of what I paid for. I think I sold for $200 with the box and the original instructions and all that, and it went gone. But that was the thing that I really remembered about that radio. That synchronous detection worked great, and it really helped out getting those distant stations to lock in when you were, in a fading kind of a situation.
Exactly.
How'd you place though? You weren't first, but you weren't last either, I think.
I think out of 8 people, I was third.
Oh, okay. Podium.
So it wasn't, it's like when I used to go to a drag race, and I'd lose, and my buddies were out in the stands and drinking beer, and hey, don't worry, Bob, you came in second. Okay, well,
that's funny.
What are you gonna do?
Okay, that's all I had on that subject.
Okay, was there any other radios in that topic, Tom, that we wanted to
Oh
cover?
yeah, the Sangean,
right.
which you had up there for a second. This is another new radio that's just come out, and this is the Sangean ATS-909X. It's the follow-up of the ATS-909. It has a bigger screen. It has more memory storage, and it has some new functions. I don't remember what they are on hand. This one is definitely on my buy list. I have the predecessor, And I really liked the predecessor, except it had one problem in that when you listen to shortwave using the built-in telescopic antenna, it was pretty deaf. You almost had to use an external antenna of some kind. The big question is, have they fixed that? If they fix that, then I'm buying one of these. And there's give you a price.
Wow. Okay.
Now, what was really bizarre is when Amazon first put this on the webpage about a week ago, the price was $1,200.
Wow.
And now it's down to $587, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only like under $300 typically. So it's just the fact there's not too many sellers, and that price will come down.
Tom, it makes me glad I'm 40 pounds overweight, because it's going to be harder for somebody to grab me by the ankles and shake me real hard to buy that thing. I want one, but I'm not paying that money.
Yeah. No.
Oh, that's wait. I mean, last week it was $1,200, so it's half price now.
Yeah. Right.
I want to paraphrase something I said, and I said that new radios don't come across this area too often. I bought this about 3 years ago. Anybody, you guys seen this? This is a Tecsun, actually.
Yeah, I have one of those. I have the older one without single sideband.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the sideband version. I also opted to get, because I do the DX on the AM, a special antenna. This is what they call the high sensitivity antenna that you could put on the radio, and then you can
Oh yeah.
do that.
You need to
I
take.
love this little radio. It's just so heavy. I mean, hurts my arm to pick it up. But I just keep some rechargeable batteries in this thing. It even's got a little 5-volt port. You can recharge it up. And I love this little thing. I mean, there's limitations. I'm not going to lie to you, but for the package, this thing is a pretty good DX machine, up to about, it's almost like a tube transoceanic. It's good to about 11, 12 megacycles. It'll go up to 30. But I noticed that when you get above 12, the higher you go, it'll still receive stations. However, I guess because of the circuitry or something that's within the radio, you'll get a lot of heterodynes and different weird noises and things like that. And I think it's all within the radio. But look at the size. It's great. And the FM on this is great too. I can get the light to shine on the display a little better. It even shows the temperature over here.
Oh wow.
So
That's pretty good.
And I paid, this is only $100. And I could have went out and probably got one of my buddies to weld this up for me, but this was $20, and it's a little stand that goes in the clip, and then you can lay this down and stand it up, upright on a table. So that's probably the newest radio I have in here.
I need to get one of those stands, because that's my problem is I'm always knocking mine over because it's top heavy.
You know what? I know so many people that weld. What we should do is find, you live in Florida, so there's probably some guys down there who are welders. Just hand over a 6-pack of beer. Hey, can you make one of these and just have it in cardboard, and they'll bang one out for you.
Okay, Kevin, I'll give you my address.
There you go. Yeah.
I have a wire feed welder and a cutting torch, and
There you go. You got a side business to start now, Kevin.
So it's what I plan on when I finally quit work. So.
So it looks like we're at our last topic here on the agenda, which is CB radios and maybe some stories from the old days. We could probably do a 2-hour show just on that, but we can touch on it a little bit here. And I think we've all got at least some background with CB radio. I mean, there was a time when if you were involved in ham radio, you didn't dare mention the word CB radio. But I think times have changed in that regard, both because I think a lot of people sort of my age and up have sort of started in CB radio, and also because I think CB radio has mellowed out some over the years. So any CB radio stories or anything you want to talk about, old CB radios or anything along those lines?
Some fun facts about CB radios. Now, I did a little research. I actually know a little bit about this, which is scary. General Motors actually offered a CB radio in your car from the factory.
Yep.
They also had dealer installed versions. In 1977, GM first offered, now Ford didn't do it or Chrysler didn't do it. It was only GM. In 77, you can get a 40 channel CB radio. And that was a game changer, because at that time, that's when the transition was happening between 23 and 40 channel CB radios. So that was actually a big deal. They were crazy expensive. If you've just gotten the AM FM radio, you're already looking at about $130 or $135. I don't remember the engine code number to get that. But to get the CB radio was $195 in 1977 on top of the $135. So a lot of people didn't get it. They could get it in a Trans Am, or you could get it in a Camaro, only certain cars. You could get it in the entire GM line except for Chevy at first. In 78, you could get the 40 channel CB radio. They didn't offer it in 77 in Chevy, because I guess figured that Chevy was the bomb in the line. They're not going to be able to do it. Now, you could get a dealer add-on, and I've never seen one, but I've heard about them. You could buy a dealer add-on on top of your AM FM stereo radio that had 6 channels. So you select the 6 channels, the dealer would install it in your car. I've never seen one, but they actually had that. So you could get a CB radio in any car pretty much, and in some of the trucks as well, but not very often in the truck. You would think there would be a big deal in having it in the trucks, but they put it more in cars, mostly Cadillacs, because it was a Cadillac car. They want to have it. Oh, I got a CB radio in my caddy here, and that kind of thing.
I had one. There's a local car swap meet that happens here. And back in my 20s, I was there walking around, and somebody was selling a Cadillac CB radio. I paid like $5 for mine. It didn't work. I fooled with it. I never got it working, and it went in the dumpster, except for one of those Drake radios back there needed a knob, and the knob from the Cadillac CB radio is on that Drake. So
anyway, GM had them up to 82, and then in the 83 mile year, all gone. Yeah. So I just figured I'd share that with you. That's all I have to say about CBs.
I got into fox hunting because of CB radio. So what would happen is on a Saturday night, this guy would come to town and he would start messing with the locals on the local channel, but not in a bad way. He was just trying to be funny. He would talk in a Scottish accent, and we called him Scotty. That was his name. And he'd like, you'd be having a conversation with your buddy, and he'd break in and he would tell you something that he shouldn't know. But what it was is he would listen all week long, and he would take notes on everything people were saying. And he knew a lot of people in town, so he would get information on people on purpose. And then Saturday night, he'd get on there and he'd just say one little quick thing. Oh, I knew that guy. He's got that in his house or whatever. Or, oh, I knew this guy. He went to the store on Tuesday. How did he know that? So everybody started like, we got to find this guy. We got to find this guy. Well, one thing led to another, and Saturday night became the Scotty hunt. And it got pretty involved for a while because this guy was a radio technician. So he had access to different things. Toward the end, this guy even had repeaters, crossband repeaters set up on CB radio where, he was on a 2-meter VHF business band radio talking through a crossband repeater to the CB. So people were trying to find him, but what they would find is like woods, because he had this thing stuck in a tree and camouflage. Nobody actually found the repeater, but that's what we found out years later. So we had a lot of fun, just kind of messing around. I learned a lot about direction finding and radio and stuff. And I consider him one of my Elmers, really, because I learned a lot about radio from that experience. And it was a lot of fun. And in fact, he's still on the local repeaters to this day. I talk to him once in a while. But yeah, that was a lot of fun and really kept my interest in ham radio, because I was actually licensed in ham radio at that time, but wasn't active. I stayed on the CB all throughout those years, and then got interested or active in ham radio after that. But
That's a great story. I just hope for your sake he doesn't watch your channel.
he does. He'll see
he does?
this. Yeah, he's told
Well,
me
then
he
you gotta
watches
find
it.
out now unless you edit this out.
No, it's okay. And the thing of it is if he is watching, he says he has recordings of those old Scotty hunts, and I'd really like to put those on the channel someday. I think it would be a lot of fun, because we had a lot of fun with it.
I have a short CB radio story, a
Mhm.
recent story, I would say in the past year. I was in my office here and playing on my computer, and all of a sudden I heard some conversation coming from my speakers back there. And I'm like, and the radio's off. And I'm like, how can that be? And I thought, oh, maybe I'm imagining it, or maybe it's something that's coming out of the computer. So I ignored it. And then I hear it again. This guy's calling, come quick, And I'm like, what is going on here? So I go over there, and sure enough, the radio's off. I unplugged the radio, and it's still coming through. So I thought, that's got to be somebody local running a lot of power. And so the next morning, I got in my car and started driving around the neighborhood. And there it is, this gigantic CB beam antenna,
Oh, wow.
2 blocks from my house, pointed in the direction of my house. Now, it wasn't pointed in the direction of my house on purpose, but it was just pointed west, and I was east of him, and he was coming in on the speakers of that radio behind me, and I couldn't shut it off.
Yeah.
And luckily, he didn't do it very often. And I don't think he's been on the air for 6 months now.
Oh, wow.
So it's not a problem.
How far away is he?
He's 2 blocks.
Oh, okay. So pretty
Wow.
close. Yeah.
And he's probably, probably affected my brain, the radiation from his antenna. He must be pumping out a lot of power. And the beam antenna is a monster thing.
Oh,
So
I bet.
Bob,
You'll know who it is. You just have to go by his house at night and watch him walk outside, and he's got like an aura around him. Then
yeah.
you'll know he's been playing with his Dave-made amplifier.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when I was in the CB, when we had people like that, the key thing was to shut them down, was to take a nail or a pin and put it through the coax.
Yes.
And
I
it
was just going to
shorted
tell you.
out to coax.
I was just going to tell you, you got to sneak over there at night and pin his coax.
Yeah.
Well, I probably have one with the story about the getting something on your speakers you're not expecting. This was at school. I was upstairs in a abandoned room in our school. It was a storage room. It was an old classroom. Anyway, I had a Dell monitor up there, and somehow I unhooked the speakers from the Dell monitor, and the thing fell into the louver of a heating element, or not the element so much, but the long tubes of hot water, and it fell down inside the louver, and it stuck there. And all of a sudden, I was getting a radio station on the Dell monitor, and I'm sitting there looking at that. I go, well, I was looking at the computer first because I thought I unhooked the speakers, and nothing was up with the computer. So I followed the lead down, or the 3.5 millimeter jack down, and it was stuck in the heater vent kind of, and there was picking up the station just absolutely perfect. So I had to actually get people in there to see this, to confirm my story that they weren't that it wasn't just crazy or anything.
Nice.
That was pretty cool. It was a FM radio station that was about 30 miles away. The other thing with CBs was, I remember my uncle had a really nice base station. He had his antenna up on like a 40-foot tower, and lightning struck it one day, and that was the end of the CB. As far as he just decided to not get back into it, but it took and it blew. He had a realistic CV and a realistic power supply, and it took and blew the power switch, the rocker switch, all the way across the kitchen and landed on the floor when the lightning hit, and it melted some wires too. The power wires on the CD were melted together too. It was just instantaneously destructive. It was just it was terrible. It was carnage, electronic carnage all over the place. So
Okay.
that's about it for me as far as CD. I got my start in CD, and I just absolutely loved them.
But okay, well, we've been going for quite a while here now, so we'll probably wrap it up. But yeah, I had a lot of fun this morning, and I hope you guys did too. So those are my parting thoughts. What do you guys think?
I think it turned out really good. I hope everybody be available. We can do more of these.
Not sitting in front of the TV, watching I Love Lucy reruns or something. I'm actually doing something creative and constructive with you guys, and I appreciate you guys welcoming me in.
It was fantastic. I'm glad you invited me. I hope I can do this again with you guys. I hope you invite me again.
Thanks again, and we'll say 7-3 to everyone out there watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you go check out these guys' channels. I'll leave a link down in the description. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and feel free to leave us some comments if you want to. So 7-3 for now.